Autopsy. That's what your children are going to perform on your house the moment you're gone. I'm 92, and I've watched successful men spend 40 years building a museum of junk, only for their kids to hire a stranger to haul it to a landfill for pennies on the dollar. Your legacy is currently sitting in your garage, and it's rotting your freedom while you're still alive to taste it. Most of you are stuff-rich and time-bankrupt. You're clinging to 12 specific anchors because society told you they signify status. But look at me. At 92, the only thing I regret having is the weight I didn't drop at 60. There's a massive secret financial windfall waiting for you, but it's buried under a pile of things you're too sentimental to sell. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to perform a ghost audit on your life. I'm going to name 12 items that are quite literally stealing your breaths. Item number 7 is the reason most men my age die in high isolation. And item number 12, that's the one you think makes you safe. But it's actually your ransom note. Sell them now and buy back your soul, or keep them and let the landfill have the last laugh. Stop sleeping. Let's begin the audit. Before I give you the list, I need to tell you something that will make the list make sense. Because if I just read you 12 things to sell, you'll nod, maybe write 2 of them down, and then go right back to the life you've been living. And in 10 years or 10 months, nothing will have changed except you'll be older, and the stuff will still be there, and the freedom you keep promising yourself will still be somewhere just around the corner. So I need to tell you about Gerald first. Gerald was 81 when I met him. Retired engineer, sharp mind, good man, 3-car garage, 4-bedroom house. 2 storage units he was paying monthly fees on had been for 11 years. Do you know what was in those storage units? He didn't. Not exactly. He knew there was furniture from his mother's house, his father's tools, his own tools from a woodworking phase in the 80s that lasted 14 months, golf clubs, 2 sets, because he upgraded and kept the originals just in case. A boat engine from a boat he sold in 2004. Not a boat, an engine from a boat he no longer owned. He was paying $47 a month to store an engine for a boat that didn't exist. And when I asked him why he hadn't sold any of it, why he hadn't at minimum gone through it, he said something I have not forgotten. He said, "I keep meaning to." Gerald died 14 months after that conversation. His daughter spent 3 weekends clearing those units. She sold what she could for almost nothing, because when you're selling in grief and urgency, you accept the first offer. She threw away the rest. The boat engine went to a metal recycler. $47 a month for 11 years is $6,184. Gerald paid $6,000 to store something that's sold for scrap. Now, are you ready to begin the audit? Item 1. The house that's too big for your actual life. I am not starting small. I never start small. This is the one that will make half of you close the video right now, because it is too uncomfortable to hear, and the other half will stay, because somewhere in your chest you already know I'm right. You are living in a house that was designed for a version of your life that no longer exists. The children are gone. The dinner party stopped happening sometime around 2015. You have 4 bedrooms and you sleep in one of them, and you walk past the others every single day without opening the doors. You are heating, cooling, insuring, maintaining, and paying property tax on rooms you do not use. But here is the thing that nobody says at the dinner table. You're not keeping the house for you. You're keeping it for the story. The story that says a man of your standing lives in a home of this size. The story your neighbors confirm every time they see the house. The story your children expect to inherit the backdrop of their childhood from. You are paying every single month to maintain a story. And I want to tell you what that story is actually costing you, because this is where it gets interesting. The average man in his 60s living in a home he bought 20 or 30 years ago is sitting on equity, real equity, the kind of number that changes what the rest of your life looks like if you are willing to look at it honestly. I'm not going to tell you that number because I don't know your market, but I want you to find out that number this week, not next month, this week. Call someone, ask, find out what that house would sell for in the current market. And then, just for one moment, I want you to sit with what that number could buy you in terms of time, mobility, and actual daily peace. Write that number down. We're coming back to it. Item 2, the vehicle you're insuring but not driving. Somewhere in your life there is a vehicle, or there was one recently, or there will be one soon, that costs you money every single month whether you touch it or not. Insurance, registration, maintenance you keep meaning to do. This might be the extra car, the truck you need for projects, the motorcycle in the garage with 600 miles on it that you bought at 58 during what your wife accurately described as a moment. I am not mocking you. I bought a car at 71 that I drove 4 times. 4 times. I am simply asking you to count the vehicles in your life against the actual, documented, real-world miles you put on them in the last 12 months. Be honest. Be brutal. And then ask yourself who those vehicles are for. Because there's a version of this where you sell one, just one, and the monthly weight that comes off your financial life is the equivalent of getting a raise you didn't have to earn. But we're just getting started, because items 1 and 2 are the obvious ones, the ones you already half know. What comes next is where it gets strange. Item 3, the luxury watch collection. Stay with me, because this one is not about watches. If you collect watches or cameras or fountain pens or any category of expensive, beautiful, handheld object that you acquired over decades, what I'm about to say applies to every single one of them. There's a watch on your wrist or in your drawer right now that was purchased to signal something to someone who is no longer watching. The colleague who would have noticed it. The boardroom it was bought for. The version of you that needed the confirmation that a piece of metal on your wrist could provide. That person is not looking at your watch anymore, but that watch is still working. Working to tell a story to a room you left years ago. Meanwhile, and this is the part that should make you genuinely uncomfortable, the secondary market for quality timepieces is currently at levels that would make your accountant emotional. There are buyers right now, organized, serious, well-funded buyers, who will pay prices for certain pieces in your collection that you would not believe if I quoted them. I know a man who sold 3 watches in 2023 and took his wife to Portugal for 6 weeks. Fully funded. Watches he wore twice a year. Watches that were, in his own words, just sitting there being worth money. Your collection is a portfolio you forgot to manage. Item 4, every piece of exercise equipment you own. I am going to be very direct with you on this one. The treadmill is not making you healthier. The guilt of walking past it might actually be making you less healthy. There is a specific, documented psychological phenomenon where the presence of unused equipment creates a low-grade ambient shame that is mildly corrosive to your general well-being. You walk past it. You feel something. Not enough to use it. Just enough to feel bad about not using it. You're paying a daily psychological fee to own an object you do not use. And someone right now, probably within 5 miles of your house, is desperately looking for exactly the model you have at a price that is embarrassingly easy for them to pay. List it tonight. Photograph it in the next 10 minutes. Put the price at 70% of what you paid and watch what happens to your phone. But I need you to keep watching, because item 5 is the one that the financial advisors will not tell you about, because if they did, you might not need them anymore. Item 5, the investment portfolio you don't understand. I need you to sit down for this one. If you're already sitting, I need you to sit differently. More honestly, do you know, specifically line by line, fund by fund, what your investment portfolio contains right now? Or do you know a number? Because there's a catastrophic difference between knowing your money and knowing a number someone sends you in a quarterly statement that you look at for approximately 45 seconds before putting it in a drawer. I am not a financial advisor. I will not tell you what to sell or buy, but I will tell you this from 92 years of watching men handle money. The most expensive financial product most men over 60 own is complexity they don't understand, maintained by someone who benefits from that complexity, continuing. Simplification is not a retreat. Simplification is the most aggressive financial move available to a man at this stage of life. And the process of genuinely understanding what you own, actually sitting down and learning it, will show you things that have been quietly working against you for years. I guarantee it. But hold on to that thought, because item 6 is the one that will make you call someone. I promise you. Item 6, the business you're still involved in. This one is for a specific group of you. But if it's for you, you know it immediately. You built something, or you were part of something. And officially, on paper, or in your own mind, you step back, you're retired, you handed over the reins, but you're still on the email thread. You still get the calls. You still go in occasionally. And the business, and more importantly, the people running it, cannot fully become what they need to become because you are still there. Not quite there, but there enough. Your involvement at this stage is not helping the business. Your involvement is preventing the business from grieving your absence and adapting to it. And that adaptation, that full, final, clean transition, is the moment the business either grows into its next chapter or reveals that it was always dependent on you. Either outcome is valuable information. Neither outcome can happen while you're still on the thread. Exit completely. Get paid for your equity or your stake or your consultation agreement, and then actually leave. What comes back to you in terms of mental space? The sheer cognitive room that returns when you're no longer half in half out a machine you use to run is worth more than whatever the ongoing involvement is paying you. And what it pays the business is incalculable. But I need you to stay with me, because item 7 is the one I mentioned in the opening. The one that is directly responsible for what I call high-end isolation. And I need to explain exactly what that is, because it is happening to men you know. It may be happening to you, and you won't see it until I name it. Item 7. The social status you're still purchasing. High-end isolation. Let me explain exactly what this is. It is a condition of man who has spent 40 years purchasing admission to a certain tier of social life, the clubs, the events, the restaurants, the neighborhoods, the associations, and who continues purchasing that admission long after it stopped delivering anything real. The memberships, the annual fees, the subscriptions to a version of prestige that requires constant financial maintenance to sustain. And here is the isolation part. The social world that those memberships buy access to is the social world of people who are also primarily there because of their memberships. It is a room full of people performing a version of themselves at significant personal cost to stand in a room with other people doing the same thing. And the intimacy in that room, the real connection, the kind that actually nourishes a human being, is almost non-existent, because real intimacy cannot happen between performances. Men who live at this level of curated social existence frequently report, and I have heard this from men worth millions, that they have no one to call at midnight when something is wrong. They have associates. They have connections. They have a network. They do not have a friend. And they are paying premium prices for the privilege of that specific loneliness. Sell the memberships. Cancel the fees. Walk away from the rooms that require subscription to enter. And find out who calls you when you're no longer relevant. Those people. And there will be fewer of them than you expect, and they will surprise you. Those are the people worth building the rest of your life around. But stay with me, because item 8 involves something in your house right now that is worth far more than you think. And I mean that literally, in cash terms. Today, item 8, the art, antiques, and inherited objects you've never praised. Most of you are living with things on your walls, on your shelves, in your attic. Things that were handed down to you or bought decades ago, or given as gifts that you have never had professionally appraised. Not once. And you are making a financial assumption about those objects, that they are worth what you think they're worth, or worth what you paid, or worth nothing, without any actual data. This assumption is costing some of you significant money. The antique market, the art market, the collectibles market, these are not stable, predictable, common sense markets. Things that seemed worthless 30 years ago sell today for amounts that seem impossible. Things that seem valuable are now worthless. You do not know which category your inherited objects fall into. Get one appraisal, one professional, documented appraisal of everything in your home that is more than 30 years old. The appraisal itself costs almost nothing relative to what it might reveal. And what it reveals might be the most surprising financial conversation you have this year. I know a woman, a friend's widow, who discovered after her husband died that a painting he had inherited from his uncle and kept in a back bedroom because he didn't particularly like it was worth more than their car. It had been in that back bedroom for 23 years. Get the appraisal. Item 9. The life insurance policy you took out in another century. This one is dense. I'm going to go slowly. There are men watching this who are still paying premiums on life insurance policies they took out in their 40s or 50s. policy is designed to protect a financial situation that no longer exists. The mortgage is paid. The children are grown and financially independent. The financial obligations that made that policy essential have dissolved, but the premium continues. Every month, going somewhere. There are specific types of life insurance policies, and I am not going to name them because I am not a financial advisor, and you need one for this conversation, that have accumulated cash value, real cash value, accessible value, value that is yours, that is sitting inside a contract you signed decades ago that you have not looked at recently. I want you to find that policy this week. Read it, or have someone who understands it read it with you, because there's a meaningful possibility that you are paying for something that is simultaneously an expense and an asset, and you are only experiencing the expense half of that equation. Find the policy, read the policy, and then have the conversation. Item 10. The second home you visit less than you admit. How many times did you actually go last year? Be honest, not the number you tell people at dinner, the actual number, because there is a specific arithmetic that applies to second homes, particularly the ones purchased at a moment of peak aspiration, during a period when the future looked a particular way, that most people refuse to do. Divide the total annual cost of ownership, mortgage if applicable, insurance, property tax, maintenance, utilities you pay whether you're there or not, by the actual number of days you spent there. What is your daily rate? What does one day in that property actually cost you? I have asked this question to a number of men over the years. The number, when calculated honestly, is almost always shocking. Sometimes it is more per day than a very good hotel. A hotel that someone else cleans. A hotel that someone else maintains. A hotel where when the roof leaks, it is categorically and completely someone else's problem. I am not saying sell it sentimentally. I am saying calculate it honestly, and then decide with the number in front of you, not the feeling, because the feeling is what the property is banking on. Item 11, the storage unit. Go back to Gerald. Whatever is in your storage unit, whatever you are paying monthly to keep at a controlled temperature in a facility you drive past without stopping, has not improved with age. The furniture has not become more valuable. The boxes have not organized themselves. The things you were going to go through have not been gone through. And the monthly fee has been quietly, reliably, unsentimentally taking money from you every single month with the punctuality of a landlord who never does any repairs. I want you to make a decision right now. Not a plan, a decision, that within 60 days, you will close that unit. You will sell what can be sold. You will give what can be given. You will throw away what needs to be thrown away. And you will take the monthly fee and put it somewhere that is working for you instead of against you. Do not negotiate with yourself on this. The unit is not protecting a legacy. The unit is protecting your avoidance. Close it. Item 12, your current identity. I told you this was the one you think makes you safe. I told you it was your ransom note, and I meant every word, because this is the one that none of the financial advisors, none of the retirement planners, none of the decluttering experts will ever put on a list, because it cannot be sold on eBay. But it is costing you more than everything else on this list combined. Your current identity, The story you tell yourself and everyone around you about who you are, what you've built, what you're worth, what you're entitled to feel, what is and isn't possible for you at this age, is the most expensive thing you own, because it is the thing that makes selling everything else feel like loss instead of liberation. It is the thing that turns downsizing into a humiliation instead of a strategy. It is the thing that makes a smaller house feel like defeat, a soul membership feel like exile, a cleared storage unit feel like erasure. Your identity, as it is currently constructed, is the ransom. The kidnappers are nostalgia, social comparison, the voice that says a man of your standing doesn't start over, doesn't simplify, doesn't sell the things that mark him as having arrived. And that voice is lying to you. Because the men I have watched die with the most peace, not wealth, not success, not legacy, peace, were the men who, at some point in their final years, put the identity down, just put it down, and discover that underneath it, still completely intact, was a person, a real, specific, particular person who liked certain things and laughed a certain way and had opinions that were actually his own and not his industry's. That person doesn't need the house to be that size. That person doesn't need the membership. That person doesn't need the stuff. That person just needs the time. And the time, the actual unscheduled, unperformed, genuinely yours time, is what everything on this list is stealing from you. One item at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time, until there are no years left and the children are standing in your garage wondering what to do with the boat engine. I am 92. I have sold things that I thought defined me. And every single time, without exception, what came after the selling was lighter than what came before it. Not poorer, lighter. There's a version of your remaining years that is so unencumbered, so deliberately yours, so free of the maintenance and performance and the monthly fees of a life built for someone else's approval. That version is available to you. Right now, today, the list is in your hands. The audit is complete. What you do next is the only thing that matters.